Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of the Extreme Flight Extra 78-inch 300 EXP version 3. I got it. Build series. Last time around we basically unboxed the model, we checked out the hardware that's going inside it, we fitted the servos to the wing panels, and we also prepared the horizontal stabilizers. This time around we're going to be getting on with the fuselage, starting off with the rudder. Let's make a start. Okay guys, so closed loop is threaded in from the rear of the aircraft. So it's got some tubing on the inside to receive it. Makes it much easier than going the other way. I've attached the ball links as well, ready for the closed loop wire on both sides. And inside the fuselage, we've put in this servo, same servos all around on this model, the 3-inch Extreme Flight servo head, and of course the ball links as well, ready to go for the closed loop wire. Just taped up the closed loop wire so it doesn't fall inside the fuselage. But that's the next step, is to wire it up. Now I'm going to wire it from the rear of the model. Somebody did say that they prefer doing the inside of the model first because they find it more fiddly and then getting it tight on the rear, but I just happen to go the other way around. So let me know what you do in the comments below. Hey guys, so when it comes to doing closed loop, I'm just going to show you the process that I go through. Now people do this in different ways and that's absolutely fine, but this just works for me. First of all, I always use a bit of heat shrink. You'll see why in just a few moments. Thread that on. We've got the closed loop keeper, which is the piece of metal we end up squashing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly guess about 1.5 times the length from the screw to the hole for the closed loop, which is probably going to be about there, a little bit past that. I'm going to thread from the inside through, and I'm just going to put a little kink in there, just sort of squeeze it very slightly so I know it's going to help it stay in place. Now with the keeper, I'm going to go back through the keeper from the front. Now some people will just leave that there and squeeze and that would probably be absolutely fine, but what I like to do is make life hard for myself and go back through it one more time back from the front. So let's see if I've left enough to do that. There we go, just using some pliers to help put it through the hole so it is enough space for it to go through 3 times. So you end up with an extra loop which I want to pull through. Be careful not to hit the side of the fuselage where you're doing this if you're using pliers. There we go, it's gone through easy now. Just that initial one a bit difficult. So nice and tight. Now that isn't going anywhere. Even if I don't crimp it, that's not going anywhere. I can pull that as hard as I can and it's not going to move. But what I will do is crimp it down. Like so. Nicely done. I'm going to cut off the excess. Like so, and then we're going to use this heat shrink. I'll squash that down as well actually, just to get that folded a little bit flatter. There we go. To cover that up, and that's going to go about there. So let's get that done while we're here. Just going to use the back of my messy glue palette there to protect the model. And there we go, one closed loop connection. Done. Nice and tight, isn't ever going to come up, and of course I can still adjust it if I want it a bit tighter by turning these inwards. Right, I'm going to do the other 3, then I'll show you. There we go guys, closed loop done. Servo end, I've left the servo screw out as per normal until I plug the servo in and get it aligned. And down the tail end, as you saw before. Right, so now that's done, I think we'll spin the model over and do the undercarriage. Okay, so the first thing to do is to secure the undercarriage on using the supplied bolts. That is a little bit tight in there. I've not seen that before on these models. There's not much I can do about it either. Just twist it in gently, there we go. A little bit tight, but it's gone on. So I'm just going to test these bolts first. No, actually they'll be fine. Okay, so I'm using just a tiny bit of thread lock on these. They've got a nut to the other side already. No lumps way up. Just a word of warning, when you put the undercarriage on, make sure you got it the right way around. The undercarriage has a thicker edge and a taper edge. The taper edge goes towards the back, and the undercarriage should lean forward as well. So when I look at it at this angle, I can see that it's leaning forward rather than leaning backwards. I've seen a few models with the undercarriage on the wrong way around, and it's not a good look. Okay, so next up we need to locate the wheel cuffs. Now these only go one way around. As you can see, they've got a longer part and a short part. The longer part goes at the back, and then the cut on the rubber will go underneath the aircraft, not on top. So this one goes on this side. Just slot them on. I won't worry about gluing them just yet, because we're going to put the axles on. So axles, nice and straightforward, go through the top hole as it's upside down. The other hole is to locate the spats, washer, and the lock nut. Okay, so now they're on nice and tight, we'll put the supplied collets on. You need to loosen these off before you put them on. And just next up we have the wheels. Loosen those collets right off at the moment. And then finally we have the spats, although before the spats, or the wheel pants as they call them in America. I'll open up this little bag here and show you what's inside. So I think you can see that if I just hold it here. Yeah. So we have kind of collets built into these flat pieces with angled blocks of wood, and these are if you're using spats. So you don't have to use spats, you can just use wheels like this. They do supply extra collets you can put on and just leave it like that. Possibly, no, ideally fly off grass, because spats get damaged quite a lot on grass. Regardless of that, we do fly off grass and we're going to put spats on. Just be careful with them. So make sure you get these angled the right way around. I have to remind myself every single time I do on these to make sure the nut there, the bolt rather, is in the right place, and I've got them angled the right way. Now, as far as I'm aware, you don't glue these on the inside, because if they were glued on the inside of the spat, you wouldn't get it back on over the wheel. So I'm not going to glue these. Let me show you a bit of the idea. So the wheel spat will go on here. We've got a bolt going through, and this acts as a collet the other side. So I'm just checking what way around this wants to go. There you go, guys. That's the finished look. So you can see the spacers just inside there. Now let me know if you glue yours. I suppose I could put some silicone glue in there just to hold it in place, but it's not going anywhere. The wheel's fine. Got space on the wheel. Okay, that's it. So I'll do the other one and then we'll move on to the towel assembly. Okay, so towel wheel assembly, really nice carbon fibre, pre-made up. It's just a case of 2 bolts to hold it in place. Then so that the rudder can move, or the wheel can move with the rudder, you just have this little tiny connector here, ball joint, which will go in the hole first and glued in, and then you'll just slide the rod through that before screwing in the wheel. Okay, so there's the tail wheel on, and I've just glued that ball joint in place and just held it with a bit of tape for the moment while it dries. I'm epoxy, but I completely forgot as I was doing this, got ahead of myself and forgot to put these cuffs on. So I'll spin it back round and I'll show you what I do with these. Okay, so what I recommend doing with these cuffs is, you don't want to epoxy them, you want to put some silicone glue on them, but to get your glue right, you slide them all the way on first, like so, draw a pencil line, just like this round, slide them back up. This one is tight. And then use your silicone glue up until that pencil line, all over, both sides, slide back down, and you should be absolutely fine. That way you won't have any silicone glue on the wrong part. There we go. So the next job is to cut out these rear vents. You can just about see them if I push down on the covering, and this really is to allow the air to escape. Now normally if you're fitting a pipe to this model with an engine, then you've got pipe holes here as well, and we're not fitting a pipe, we've got an electric motor in here. We'll be opening up an air hole at the front, and this is going to be the exit for the air here. I'll show you something inside as well once, which is new to this version, once I've done this. So my tip really for here is just to use a real sharp knife to put a new blade on, and just go straight as close as you can on the line, and then run an iron over the top. So I'm just going to open up probably 3 each side, maybe 4. Let's see what it looks like with 3. So I'm pushing against the wood support here to make sure I'm hard up against that line. I'm not going to go around the corner just yet, corner's a little bit trickier. Again, pushing this direction. And now going around the corner of just the very tip. This is why you need a sharp knife. Like so. Don't worry about it falling inside. A bit trickier there. Let's pull the covering back out and pull it tight. And there we go. So once that's tied up with an iron, that will look absolutely fine. So I'll get on and do the others, and then we'll spin the model over and I'll show you the new section inside the fuselage. And there we go, there's the holes cut out. So if I spin her over, you can see the effects from the inside. So this is the new piece for version 3. I've not seen this before. It's like a deflector. So obviously the air is going to come through the fuselage, which you'll see in a minute, and then it's going to hit this deflector and go out through these holes. That's a great idea, rather than just filling up the back of the fuzz and then coming backwards. So nice idea. Be interested to see how much of a difference that makes. Right, so let's go on to the front of the aircraft. Okay, so looking at the front of the aircraft, got a couple of things to do here. First of all, we need to drill out the right holes for the X-Power 40, which I have here. Now the X-Power 40 mounts are the same size as the 35cc, so same distance apart, which I think is 62mm, and they should be marked on the firewall. They're not on this one, so I'll just double check which ones they are. I think they're bottom corner ones, top there looks about right, but I'll double check those by measuring for sure. And then we're going to be using our Blazing Star standoffs, and that's to keep the motor the right distance away, so it comes flush with the front of the cowling. Now I particularly like these, I've said it many times before, because they've got spacers in, and you just basically take out the amount of spacers you want to get the right distance. And they come with different size screws as well, so once if you've got all the spacers out, you can use the shorter screws or medium screws. So I'll get that connected, then I'll show you the next step. There we go, there's a motor installed with the Extreme Flight standoffs. All Loctite in both ends, obviously the bolt behind and also the front bolt. And I'll just show you what the gap looks like. And there we go guys, there is the spinner gap. So it's pretty close. The shaping of the cowling where it sort of curves in makes it look further away than it actually is. But I think that's going to be absolutely fine. Right, on to the ESC. Okay, so next up we're going to mount our ESC. I'm going to mount it here on this plate. And before I do so, I'm going to take out this section here. So this is kind of pre-cut already, just some tiny tabs still holding it in place. It's designed to come out if you want it to. So the idea is that the air will flow through the cowling, across the ESC, through this hole, and out down the holes in the fuselage, hitting that new deflector. And that's the ESC in place. So I've used a couple of the spare spacers from the standoffs just to prop up the ESC slightly off of the wood. I've done that on a few other models, it works rather well. I've not tied up the connectors yet because we're not sure which way the motor's spinning, so I might need to change those, so I'll leave those loose. And we'll just run the wire for the batteries down through here. That will end up going through that hole. So I think the next step really is to get the UBEC in, so we can then test the motor. Okay guys, so here's the UBEC fitted. The owner of this aircraft doesn't want separate receiver packs, wanted to run a UBEC system off of the main flight packs, which will be going in this gap here. Once I've worked out the CFG, we'll fit those. So the UBEC just comes off the ESC. You have the two wires coming in for the batteries, we're running 12S on this, then separate wires down the UBEC. They use two outputs, one for the receiver and one spare, and then just a third here for the switch. So nice and straightforward. There's the receiver in place as well, two wires either side of the wing connections, and of course the elevator coming through, or elevators coming through as well. So it's time to fit the servos for the elevator. So the fuselage is upside down at the moment. I've put one of the stabilisers on. This running the extension lead, which is actually, there's a nice tube inside, goes all the way through to the centre of the fuzz, so really easy to get the leads in. Again, I'm using leads with keepers on them, but I'll also end up putting some heat shrink over that as well, just to make sure it doesn't come out. So at the moment I'm just out to work out what way around the servo goes. So top servo here, get the rod, just work out roughly, make sure that's right around when the elevator is in neutral. Should be about right, so I was just hitting the camera stand there. There we go, so that's about right. So what I'll do is I'll get those in both sides now, get them connected. And there we go guys, that is the finished connectors in. I've left the servo head screws out for the moment as per normal, so I've not set the servo up. You can see that's what it looks like with the hardware. So these tail planes are quick release. You still have to undo one of these connectors at either end before you take the tail plane out, because obviously the servo is in the fuselage. But still a nice touch having that as an option. So guys, it's finally time now to add the stickers to the model, and as per normal we've gone to B&E Graphix.com and we've taken a look at their sticker packages and we've selected one. So let me just show you online now the one we've selected. This is what the model is going to look like. pretty cool. Now let's have a look at the quality of the graphics. So here we are on the bench. Starting off, we've got a couple of Futaba stickers for the tailplane, for the stabilizer. Now B&E do let you swap out their graphics. So if you've got a package like this and you don't fly Futaba, you fly a different make, you can just ask them to swap it out and they will colour match it with the model as well. So there's Futaba. We've got a couple of X's for the rudder, because obviously it's an extreme flight model. We've got a face to put on as well, which I find slightly challenging to do, but I've done it on a couple of other models. I'm sure it'll be fine. The eyes and the open mouth on each side of the cowling. And for the fuselage, we have the extra 300, one on each side. And a couple of smaller extreme flighters there, and a B&E Graphix for the rudder. And then across one wing panel, a much larger X300, again matching colours. Can't quite see it at the moment, obviously it's got the front and the backing on. These are vinyl. Don't really want to put it off, but I'll show you that when it's on the model shortly. Then we have a very large extreme flight for the other wing panel, and of course an X power for across the front of the cowling. So I'm going to go ahead and get those on the model. I'm not going to show you the process for doing that. I will link below though in the description another video where I have applied these graphics and talk through it. But yeah, let's get this together, get the model outside and get it put together. Okay guys, she is now completely finished and looks absolutely amazing. Let me show you the model. I think those stickers really do make the model pop. What do you guys think? Okay guys, I'll just show you the control throws I've set up, and these as per extreme flight. So again, if you go onto the website, scroll down to the spec sheet or download the manual, you'll have the recommended controls in there. So first of all, low rate ailerons, then right amount of degrees of movement, and also right expo. Now, the elevator to me always looks like it hasn't got enough, but this is really for smooth flying. Should more enough, and of course rudder as well. And then on just high rates this model, just 2 settings. They basically just say give it everything. And there we go. So that's it now. Model is finished.